Welcome back. The basic education pressure groups say over 1.5 million learners are still not being provided with school meals. Equal Education in Section 27 that some provincial education departments are repeatedly failing to report on whether they are effectively rolling out the National School Nutrition Programme, despite a court order mandating them to do so. They add that this slacking in the monitoring of whether learners are receiving meals undermines the intentions of the court order from the 2020 case. Hopolang Selebalo is head of research at Equal Education. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. This, of course, being a very important court outcome that confirmed that the school nutrition program forms part of the very basic right to education.
Thank you so much for having me on this evening. So yes, I mean, school nutrition and other components such as scholar transport are vital for conducive learning for young children. You find that obviously if children are hungry, they aren't able to concentrate in school. And it has all kinds of implications on their performance. And through the National School Nutrition Program, we have found that it actually may be one of the only secure meals that some learners have each day. So it's quite a serious matter and it's quite an important matter. So the program was suspended mid last year, soon after hard lockdown. And the lockdown happened to overlap with school holidays, just as we are in school holidays now. But unfortunately, when we were in the midst of discussions with the DBE and there were public debates about whether or not learners should be going back to school, the Minister of Basic Education seemed reticent to reopen or reintroduce the National School Nutrition Program for all learners. Despite a commitment to do so in May last year. So at some point when grade 7s and grade 12s went back to school, as I said, she reneged on a commitment to reintroduce it for all learners. She said that they don't have the infrastructure to provide all learners with meals because many learners will be at home. So this is when we took the matter to court as Equal Education, the Equal Education Law Center, the SGBs of 2 schools in Limpopo, and Section 27. And from that judgment, the judge ruled that the department have a duty, a responsibility to provide learners, whether at home or in school, with meals, and as well as to report every 15 days on progress around this issue.
So I want to look at the delays and failures in providing reports on the National School Nutrition Program rollout. Has it limited the ability for both yourselves and Section 27 to monitor the delivery of meals? And I want to talk about is it still 9 million learners who are supposed to receive food from the scheme, given the fact that there were more and more parents who lost their jobs who were in desperate need of food, therefore the school nutrition program?
Yes, so the reports contain incredibly important details, and not having access to them does hinder our ability to monitor the rollout on the ground. So provinces report on the number of learners that they have committed to provide with meals, the number of learners that they are actually feeding, how they've been communicating with parents to ensure that they know that their children can go access meals at school, even if the child is not in school that week or that day, whether or not scholar transport will be provided for children that aren't in school every day, whether food parcels. So it's incredibly important information that we can then use to compare with what is actually happening on the ground when we speak to Equal Education's learner members, our equalizers. And last year, the department was actually, the departments, because it's 8 provincial departments and the DBE, were very good at timeously providing us with the reports. There were a lot of issues around monitoring, but generally we got those reports. So it was quite alarming and actually rather infuriating that we didn't get the reports properly this year. And it's bordering on callous because they know that we depend on these reports to ensure that learners are receiving meals. So we were supposed to get a second batch of reports in last month in March, and only 5 of the 9 provinces, in fact, 5 of the 9 provinces did not submit reports. We were then meant to get the next set of reports on the 19th of April. And this time, nobody sent us any reports.
Okay.
And we obviously wrote to the department. But in relation to your question about numbers, the NSNP feeds just over 10 million learners now, according to the approved business plans of provinces.
So that means there's probably been an increase of 1 million from the initial figure that you quoted. But the NSNP has still not reached 100% of all learners that qualify for meals. I want to talk about that. What are the problems behind that? And percentage-wise, how many are actually benefiting from the scheme?
So there are roughly 10 million learners that are supposed to benefit from the scheme, according to the Director General's report that we received last month. And 1.5 million of those learners, according again to those reports, are not receiving meals. Now, because we aren't getting a breakdown through the provincial reports, as I said, we have like five reports missing, 5 provincial reports missing. It's hard to assess whether or not that 1.5 is learners not being able to access meals when they are in school, or learners that aren't able to access meals when they are at home, or if it's a combination of both.
All right, Hopolang, just before we run out of time, so you mentioned the very important components about scholar transport so that learners are able to get their meals. What else are you asking for?
Food parcels would be the best mode of delivery to ensure that they last learners for a while, in case learners aren't in school every day since they're rotating. And another element is us ensuring that learners can pick up meals from their nearest school so that they don't have to travel far just to access a meal if they are at home for a particular day or a particular week because of the rotation system.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Hopolang Selebalo is Head of Research at Equal Education.